hopefully we're not even in the realm of thinking about cutting that position. I would highlight the addition of one because I know in speaking to him that he is becoming stretched very, very thin. The importance of the SRO in schools can't be highlighted enough, and nothing's falling through the cracks, but if the need and the amount of work that he has to do continues to rise like it is, he's going to start to feel that pressure. He's going to start to miss things.
And I think you're preaching to the choir, but I think we all agree.
I know, Bob,
We all agree.
A number of times.
All agree.
The money is what the money is, but if we can find any way to get that second SRO,
Agreed.
it's crucial.
Agreed. Okay.
Thank you all for
You
coming.
want to adjourn?
Thank you.
Mr. Chair?
Motion to adjourn school committee meeting?
Second.
Thank you very much for coming. Really,
that
we need to do
wasn't
more of
just
this. We really do. We need to
Agreed.
keep
Yeah.
talking.
Yeah.
Good to see you again, too.
Now,
Thanks for coming.
and look at this show now, Brad.
Thank you.
Hey, shut up.
Oh, God, please.
See you later.
We're talking about
Thank you so much.
I'm doing great. I think we need one of those afterwards. Bye, guys. Enjoy, take care.
Hey, guys.
See ya.
Thank you.
See you guys.
See you, Sherry. Bye, Nick. Thanks, guys.
Take a 20-minute break.
Okay, back to business. We have a vote to declare a 2009 Holder tractor as surplus and add it to municipal bid.
So
Is that
moved.
the one we talked about last night?
Second.
A motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Necessary? Thank you. Vote to add the snow blower attachment as a separate auction item on municipal bid.
So moved.
Second.
And just for the record, we've replaced this piece of equipment. This was a piece of equipment made in Germany that you can't get parts for anymore. I probably shouldn't tell people that we're trying to sell it. But
It's a heck of
I never would be a good used car salesman anyway, so it doesn't matter. But that's the whole purpose of getting rid of this stuff. It's been a replacement. So we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
A good machine.
Okay, Mr. Town Manager.
Just when we were just talking about that report from the school department, what I'll do also is put a link to the Division of Local Services, because they have some good information too that people can go on and look at. I was just looking at this. This is the total budget per capita, and it's only increased in 4 years, $295. So it's not like we're going up a lot. But this is the same thing as Joe was showing. It gives you different statistics about local aid, local receipts versus spending, general fund expenses, and it shows it in the pie chart too, what departments the percentages are, and it also does a comparison with other towns. So
Okay.
we'll
Unfortunately, we don't have our second camera here tonight, so people at home aren't able to see this, but we will make sure it's on the sites.
I don't think we'd be able to see it any better.
No, probably not. Yeah, probably not, so. Okay.
just disconnect that. Under town manager's report, there's new legislation, and I talked to our state reps to support this. This legislation is, right now, this legislation will say that if a solar facility doesn't sign a pilot with a town, then they're subject to taxation, because there's always a battle that sets up, and we were going to have that battle, I think, with one of our solar facilities, but they agreed to do a pilot. That they try and say they're tax exempt, and then you got to go to the appellate tax board, and then appeals from there, and generally everyone settles anyways.
So it's
But
a payment in lieu of taxes and then on the facility, but let's say that we do have to tax them. How do we tax them? The tax on personal property or
it's the assessors will look at the value
value
of
of
all
it? Okay.
and tax them accordingly. So
Okay.
hopefully everyone. I just wanted to point out, we did receive Waste Management's annual report, and just a couple things to point out on there. That they have, the total full-time employees there now is at 157. In 2017, they hired 23 new employees, and 5 of them employees at the project location live in the municipality of the project. So
That's great.
And just in taxes, in fiscal year 2017, they paid $42,432 in taxes. So if they did not have the tip, they would have paid $15,000 more.
Okay.
And so far, they've paid $121,000. So they're meeting all their requirements under their
great.
tip.
You're good.
The taxes they pay, does that include excise tax on trucks?
It does, probably. Well, let me just see if that is just property
Doesn't sound right.
taxes listed.
Yeah, that doesn't sound right.
They do pay, I know they do pay excise on the trucks. That was one of the, yeah, this is just property taxes. So
Yeah.
in
The
addition
excise
to that.
Right.
Probably more than the property tax.
Right.
Yeah,
And that was one of the big things you were working on with them, was to make sure that they did pay.
Right.
Just, as you know, we've had a couple storms. I like to thank our highway department, our police, our fire, our dispatchers, especially the first storm. I mean, they were out straight. They had to set up the EOC at the police station because the dispatchers were just overwhelmed with calls coming in. And, I mean, they were out there even that storm was on a Friday. They were out there Saturday, and it was still windy.
Yeah.
And they were out all night. I mean, and then with this snowstorm plowing, through the night, and, I mean, just really, really did a great job. I'd like to thank them for all the extra work that they did during that.
I can't say enough about the DPW down back and the work that they did.
Yeah.
If it wasn't for our highway department moving a lot of the trees off the streets, which they're not supposed to do, they're not supposed to touch anything with wires. So what was happening, Mass Electric would make sure the wires were deactivated, and the highway guys were out there day and night trying to move trees away from the power lines. If they hadn't done that after the first storm, we would have been out for hours more beyond that. And we still have some real serious situations, but the social media BS is what really gets me fried up, and I'm not on social media for that purpose. And unfortunately, my daughter keeps feeding me information just to aggravate me. But, folks, I got to tell you something. If you want to blame anyone for trees falling down, we're all to blame. The Mass Electric has gone through and National Grid has done a lot of trimming on the trees. I will tell you that I spent 5 to 6 hours with Chief Schleicher on Saturday morning going around assessing damage around town. The trees that fell were on the other side of the street. So when we start pointing fingers at everybody and saying, well, they didn't do their job, we're not doing our job. Because guess what, folks? If the tree is on your property and it's dying, you should get rid of it. And what happens, like on Pine Street, there's no way to know that elm was as bad as it is until the log came down on Wednesday and took my power out for another 22 hours. So we had 127 of us had the benefit of no power on Pine and Plain for an extra 22 hours. And there's no way of knowing that tree was going to do that until it happened. But I would challenge anyone who wants to run off at the mouth about how the electric company's not doing a good job to go see where the stumps are today. Because I'll tell you, the stumps that I saw were on the other side of the street laying on the wires. Mike?
Mr. Chairman, just to kind of echo that, I do believe that the folks who are out there working in terrible conditions did a great job. I think one of the big concerns in social media, because I unfortunately am completely hooked into it.
You're it.
The people expressed some concern about what they felt was a lack of communication on the town's part in terms of where people can go. People assume that we have information from National Grid more than what they're getting from the expected reconnection time. Whether it be true or not, the biggest concern I came across was the fact that we're not communicating anything out. Now, with the electricity now, whether we have the capacity to do so, or people had referred to reverse 911 calls, whether that would have been of any help, but that was the...
Wouldn't have helped me, and it wouldn't help a lot of other people.
Wouldn't help me either.
I know the police department was out there sending updates all the
Yep.
time.
I will say the fire department on Facebook was updating all the time.
Yeah.
Letting people know what streets were out and what streets had to be upgraded.
So maybe we need to help communicate to where the people can access the information, not that the information wasn't available, they just didn't know where to go to get it.
And,
Just back to what we talked about originally, having one building, one place.
Yeah,
One connection, so everybody knows exactly where they have to go. Even if they have to drive here, at least they know they can talk to somebody when they get here.
or a warming center, yeah.
Yeah.
I was just, not that a reverse 911 call would be bad, but I got to complain about the fact that
You had
somebody.
power.
Well, I had power, but the town of Easton, their reverse 911 called me twice at 11 o'clock at night to let me know that they were opening an emergency center. And I live near the Attleboro line, so I have an Attleboro exchange. So how the Easton 911, reverse 911, got my number, and I was sleeping soundly until that phone call came through. And then I started thinking like, okay, if I needed, first of all, my phone wouldn't have worked if I didn't have electricity, so I wouldn't leave the house. And even if I did need to leave the house, how was I going to get there? So I think they have to tweak their reverse 911.
But I think it's important that people understand that the electric company can only do so much.
Correct.
And by the way, the reason why we lost our power for a long period of time had nothing to do with most of the trees laying on our streets. It was on these trunk lines that run through the town that we don't pay any attention to. The trunk line down behind the high school and the one up off Freeman Street. That's where the major damage was. The grid in the center of town next to the COA building is where all of our power comes in. The first couple of days, that's where the problem was. They couldn't get power to that grid. To their credit, I believe they transferred, they took the flow from the Attleboro link and they reversed it, bringing it in from Mansfield to get the grid up and working again. That's why we got it up as fast as we did. But there were trees down everywhere on the grid.
They just finished it yesterday.
Yeah, and we're still working on it. The other thing is, we had people from Quebec, we had people here from Tennessee, that I spoke to a number of those guys, and I thanked every one of them for what they did. They were taken away from their families, they were here trying to help us. And on Friday, I made the big mistake of bringing my generator up to my sister-in-law, because my power was back and hers wasn't. Of course, I lost it again yesterday, and I didn't have any power, but now I'm set up the generator at her house, and the same guys from Quebec were up there working. So, I couldn't thank them enough for what they were doing. But, this stuff about we don't do enough about the trees, we don't do enough about, it's nonsense, it's BS, because you know what? I can't predict where that tree is going to come from. I have no idea of knowing where it's going to come from. But tomorrow morning, I challenge anyone who may be listening, go look at your trees and see if there's anybody out there can see where these trees are decaying. Across the street from my house, there are 3 major trees sitting there right now that are just sticks. They're a mess. They're going to fall on the wires. If they fall my way, they're going to take out the wires. It's not on town property. We can't touch those trees.
Right.
We can't go into your property and cut it. You got to take care of that. I'm a fool for putting in 7 new trees across the front of my property. Even though they were dwarfs, they're still getting up into the wires. I don't know what I was thinking. It's stupid. It really is, in hindsight.
And if you look at how many of the trees actually came out by the roots, it wasn't just a case of rotten trees. Your street, I drove down there today, I just can't believe there's yards where it's just one tree after
Dominoes.
another, and right out by the roots.
But I can't thank the highway department, the police department, the fire department, these National Grid, and all these agencies that came in to help us. Could we do it better? Do we need a better line of communication? Absolutely. We got to do a better job of it. We need to talk about that. In fact, Mike, put it on the next agenda so we can talk about it. Maybe coming up with a plan of where we need. I thought originally we were going to have a person in the building right here from the grid that we could go to and say, okay, we got a problem here, we got a problem there. I can tell you some horror stories where the oak tree at the end of Pine Street, there were 2 trucks there at 10 o'clock at night from the company that's doing all the service in town now, the tree company. They wanted to take that tree out of there, but they couldn't because they needed to have the truck itself,
Yep.
and the electric company there. They leave, an hour later, the electric truck shows up. You know, so it didn't get out of there until like 1 o'clock in the morning. So, you know, we've got to do a better job of coordinating all this stuff, and maybe at the next meeting, we can talk about sending a letter and some ideas on how we think we should do it next time.
We
Get
have-
the chiefs involved and find out.
We have a meeting scheduled of all the department heads. We're actually going to meet down at the Housing Authority the end of April to go over everything.
Okay.
And I know the state reps are looking to schedule a meeting with National Grid on the Union Loop.
Mr. Chairman.
Union Loop came, it was one from Attleboro, right? That part of it.
Not housing, the other side of the high school, yeah. Mr. Chairman, yesterday, Wednesday during the storm, I was out plowing, and I was pulled into Bernie and Phil's about 8:30 in the morning, saw 2 wires arc ahead of me with blue sparks. I knew right then and there the power was out. So I called the fire department. The fire department responded down, found out the pole had dropped 2 legs, and they were on, they're 3-phase building, they were on 1 leg. So everybody around them had power except for that business. So Chief Slaker called and talked to his liaison. You know, they put it on the list, they were aware about it. The storm was over. Yesterday morning, I went there. Its power still wasn't on. I talked to Chief Slaker, I talked to Mike. I said, something's got to be done. You know, it's $1 million operation building. These people here can't even work. They can't even run the computers. So Chief Slaker sent a text to his guy at 8:52 in the morning. He said his line crew, told him his line crew was on the way. It was sent to me at 9:55 a.m. 20 minutes to 7 last night, I went there. They still haven't got there. So I sent Mike a text. I sent Paul a text. Paul got back to me. Meanwhile, at 10 minutes of 8, National Grid truck pulls in. He said, I'm looking at 308 East Main Street. I said, yeah, it's over here. So I showed him everything, what had to be done. Very nice guy. He said, I just got the ticket at 6 o'clock that evening. So talk about a communication error. It's not just, you know, and I get it. I get it. But don't tell somebody you're going to do something just to appease them and don't follow up in it. And that's where it's lacking. And, you know, we used to have good relationships past years with liaisons in this town. Everything was just, it was great. But, you know, people retire and other people move in, and all of a sudden now they take more work and put it all on this one guy, and now he's got to take care of 80 towns instead of a couple. And I get it, but it's very frustrating to have to tell somebody they're going to be there and they're not there.
Same happened to me. I went
Yeah.
online. I was promised electricity back by 8 o'clock. Knew that wasn't going to happen, but I didn't see anything down there. I could tell that there was nobody down there. I knew the log was across the street. Promised at 11 o'clock. I went there at 5 minutes just to check to see if anyone knew the tree was still across the street. They moved it at 1 o'clock in the morning. They called our highway guys to come down, get a backhoe and move it, which they did. And I didn't get power back until 1 o'clock the next afternoon. So, I mean, it's just having somebody at the emergency personnel, having somebody in the building that they can talk to and say, look, we understand that the people down on Newcomb Street have to have power because there's a nursing home down there. We have to have it at 120 West Main Street. We know where the power has to go. And yes, some of us are going to be cold for a while. But, you know, the people that criticize us for not reacting fast enough, they don't realize that the grid is in the center of town. And in order for it to get to Bay Road, as an example, they're going to fix everything in the middle. And we don't have the ability just to leapfrog over everybody and say, okay, Bay Road, you're going to get your power. It doesn't work that way. It just doesn't work. We all know that. And realistic expectations from everybody. And it's frustrating for me because I know these guys are out there killing themselves.
Yep.
And like Mike said, I know they're up in buckets when they weren't supposed to be with the high winds. It was dangerous. It was very dangerous for these guys to be up there. But they were doing it for us, you know, trying to make it better.
The
So,
first big storm a week ago, we had the 3 days of power outages. And, you know, you can't cut a tree until National Grid grounds the tree for the tree cutters, even though the power's dead. Here's a prime example why. There was a gentleman up on North Worcester Street. He was running the generator tied into his house.
Ah,
It backfed.
I didn't think
It
of that.
backfed out,
I didn't think of that. Wow.
okay, which caused other issues. But just think about it, if you were up there and that line across the street went down on the ground, even though it's dead, you energized that
Yeah.
from your generator.
Mm-hmm.
But it caused other problems that they had to find out why it was problems, because when they hit a switch, it was being backfed by that generator.
Well, when you have your meeting with the department heads, my one suggestion would be, we need to have a liaison right here in town, at the town hall, at the fire station, the police station, somewhere, where everybody knows where that person is and they can go to them. Because the downtime, for some of these trucks that were waiting, they were not from around here. They didn't know what they wanted to do next. The downtime was frustrating because they were sitting there with the engines running, waiting for someone to come and tell them what to do next. And again, I think our public safety people have a better idea what we need in town, and more so than anyone else.
And we had 24 to 36 trucks in town at any one time during that weekend.
Okay, update on Reed and Barton?
I've met with DEP and EPA on the Reed and Barton site, and kind of encouraged that the DEP said that they obtained money from the court to go in and get the asbestos out of the building, and the EPA said that they're looking at the end of March to possibly come in. Once the asbestos is out, they'll come in and clean up any other contaminants in the ground. So if EPA does their work, they require that we take over the property, and we can't sell it. So I know that I've had contractors coming in that are looking to get in there and take that building down because they want the timbers and other things that are in there, but they were nervous about the hazardous materials. Now, if we can get that out and then get someone in there,
Have them take it down.
yeah.
If it does go down, at no cost to us, some year down the road, would that be an empty lot? You wouldn't be able to sell it at an empty lot
We
afterwards?
can't sell it.
Okay, because of the site
So-
condition.
I was thinking we could put a town hall and COA
Yeah.
down there. And that building is a big building. There'd be plenty of room for
Yeah.
2 buildings on that property.
Yep.
So something to think.
It's not really out of the way.
No.
Can you build that close to the water now?
Well, I would hope where there's an existing building right there.
Yeah, but if once it goes down, I don't know, I'm just
Yeah.
thinking
Yeah,
We have to find
we'll
it.
check on that.
conservation,
You always build across the street and use that for a parking lot.
whatever. No, I know, isn't it 100 feet from a river?
Yeah, but I think it is 100 feet, but if it's what's the term?
Reuse like,
Leave the walls up, leave the concrete wall up.
No, if you have an existing area that's been developed and you're redeveloping, that's the word I was thinking of, it's exempt from the riverfront
oh, okay.
law.
Okay. But the point is that if they go in and they do a complete clean of it, asbestos and all the chemicals, we're gonna have to take possession of it. As a town, we're gonna have to take possession of it. And if we can't sell it, we might as well use it for something, it just makes sense. Okay, Selectmen report and mail. Mr. Selva,
I don't have anything, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Bramwell?
I think we've pretty much
Yeah, I know.
spoken about everything.
I agree with Brad.
The one thing I do want to bring up is, Mike, remember a few years ago when we did, I call it Crane Street, I call it Hill Street, you guys call it Crane Street, but when they put that traffic light on, in the industrial park, that the city of Taunton forced the town of Norton to help them put that traffic light in. I would like to send a letter to the city of Taunton asking them to take a look at helping us determine the impact on Pine Street, Plain Street, South Washington Street, and Hill Street. Because I gotta tell you something, the traffic is 50 times what it used to be, a year ago. And it's not slow, they're coming through there like it's a very straight way of going through there. And this morning, as an example, I went to get my paper at 6:15. I stood there for nine cars going in different directions, probably 2 minutes before I could cross the street.
What time was that?
6:15 in the morning. First thing in the morning, late in the afternoon, it gets very busy through there. But it's not only just Pine Street, it's Plain Street, Hill Street, West South Washington. But if we need to look at having a study done on if the roads are adequate. I saw a tractor trailer just before I came here tonight, even though it says no trucks just beyond me, doing 50 miles an hour heading up Pine Street tonight, and I cringe every time I see that because you know the curve beyond the well? I don't know how they make that. And at the speed he was going, I don't know how he's going to make it. He must have known where he was going. He was ignoring the sign as usual. But, you know, we get a lot of that going through. And I think it's time for, Taunton is doing a major redevelopment over there, the old Fort Dever. And it's getting bigger and bigger all the time. It's bringing in more and more people. And I don't have a problem with that. I really don't. But it's now having an impact on our streets. And some release or some studies being done on our side would be helpful. Any future development they do over there, they need to start looking at the Norton side of it to make sure that we can handle the impact of all the traffic going through there. Because it is getting out of control. I talked about the tree warden, something I feel very strongly about. Don't know if we can afford it, but I really have a real problem with that. And we need to figure out a way to get a person and some equipment down there so we can start taking care of these dead trees we have around town. All right, under warrants and minutes, report of Chairman Robert W. Kimball Jr. on the following payroll and invoice warrants. Entertain a motion to approve the biweekly payroll warrant PR 18 for the period ended February 24, 2018, dated March 1st, 2018, in the amount of $1,293,015.46.
So moved.
Second.
A motion to second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It's unanimous. Make a motion to approve, entertain a motion to approve invoice warrant number AP 435 dated March 1st, 2018, in the amount of $1,198,321.74.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's unanimous. Entertain a motion to approve warrant number AP 36 dated March 8, 2018, in the amount of $435,650.35.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It's unanimous, thank you. And entertain a motion to approve the biweekly payroll warrant number PR 19, the period ended March 10th, 2018, dated March 15th, 2018, in the amount of,
I've got one.
you got it? Thank you. $1,254,962.12.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It's unanimous. And I'll entertain a motion to approve invoice warrant number 8P37 dated March 15th, 2018, in the amount of $171,274.72.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It's unanimous. And we have some minutes from
February 22nd.
Everyone had a chance to look them over?
Two of us weren't here, so.
Two of us, so we can't do it.
Mm.
Okay, we'll put that on the next agenda, Mike.
Okay.
Okay, our next meeting's agenda, March 22nd, which is next week. We're coming back again. At 7:15 PM, we have a hearing on the application of 336 Toth LLC DBA Norton Tavern on the Hill, manager Cheryl J. Lutz, for a common vicular license to expose, keep for sale, and to sell all kinds of alcoholic beverages to be drunk on the premises at 336 Old Colony Road, Norton, Massachusetts. That'll be next week at 7:15. Anyone else has anything they want to bring to put on the agenda, just check with Mr. Eunice and make sure you put it on there. Alberto's. Tim
Yeah, Tim McCarthy.
McCarthy?
McCarthy. We obviously want to extend our condolences to Tim's family on his passing, sudden passing this last week. He was a very generous person, not only to the town of Norton, but to
Anybody who asked.
other people everywhere. I know on the Gold Star Committee, he used to give us gift cards all the time for all of our events, so special condolence to his family and friends. It was sad to see him go, and, he would definitely be missed by the town.
And his employees just had that. Yeah.
If I was there at his funeral yesterday.
Yeah, it was a tough day for a funeral, huh?
Yeah.
Okay, anything else come before the board? Entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second?
All those in favor?
All right.
Thank you. Thanks, Shane.